We're going to find out more. Craig Saxon from the Princeton staff. He does some of their games on radio and color. He's also the sports information director for football. We're going to talk to him here in a few minutes, and then we're also going to talk to the play-by-play voice, Cody Cruciel, who also works there at Princeton. Coach will be on with us at the end of the week, and the head coach. We'll talk to him. And we had John Lovett scheduled. He is working out for the NFL. He was the quarterback this year, a dual threat guy that had a ton of success under Coach Gleeson. John Lovett is working out, and we had something set up, and then he texted me back, said he wasn't going to be able to make it, so we'll see what happens with that. But you heard his voice there at the end, where he talked about the passion that again that Coach Gleeson has, and what he'll be bringing to Oklahoma State. So again, it has been a whirlwind weekend. We were not expecting Mike Gundy to come back this quick, but he did. Craig Saxon joins us now from Princeton, and he and I were talking last night. He kind of universally had the response I think most of the people at Clemson at Princeton are having. Heck, Princeton was pretty good. Not quite as good as Clemson this year, but they were 10-0 and champs of the Ivy League. That may be a Freudian slip. But Craig and I were talking about the fact Oklahoma State and Princeton wrestled just a couple of weekends ago, and that was a pretty crazy match and, again, competitive. So they crossed paths again. The Princeton of the Plains, Oklahoma State, which took its colors and its original mascot from Princeton, and the actual Princeton, as the Cowboys hired their offensive coordinator, Sean Gleeson, to come to Stillwater. Craig, thanks for joining us. And like I said, people there I know are unhappy and hate to lose a coach with the talent of Sean Gleeson. But you said there everybody's really happy for the opportunity he's getting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Robert. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody is thrilled for Sean. I mean, it's a guy that is incredibly easy to like, just a good person, a hard worker, does everything right. You can see the numbers that our offense produced over the last 2 years with him as coordinator. You know, you hate to lose a talent like that, but when an opportunity like Oklahoma State presents itself, certainly you can't be upset. You can't question that decision. So it's an exciting time for Sean, and certainly a well-deserved opportunity for him.
Yeah, he'll walk into a position or an offensive room that has two pretty established coaches in it, with the offensive line coach and Josh Henson, and the wide receivers coach and Casey Dunn. And here's one thing I couldn't find out about Sean. What's his exact age? I would think in the 34, 35 range.
Yeah, he is, if you try to kind of piece it together from when he graduated from college, I would probably put him in the young to mid-30 area. I mean, he is a young guy. He's kind of came out of school and you know, he was doing a couple of things and just had a passion for the sport, and he had a connection with James Perry, who was our offensive coordinator at the time and is currently now the head coach at Brown. He had a connection with him because James coached him while he was at Williams, and so he would just kind of come down to Princeton and be part of camps and just watch and you know, be in coaches meetings and kind of volunteer, offer some things, and just kind of worked his way into the program, and just, you know, started with the running backs, and then when James he took the head coaching job at Bryant and then at Brown now, but you know, when he took that job after our 2016 Ivy Championship, that's when Coach Surace pretty quickly moved him to the offensive coordinator / quarterbacks position. He was a quarterback. You know, he worked with running backs for a while, but working with quarterbacks was the more natural fit for him. And you know, I don't think any of us wondered about the drop off, or him being able to move from running backs to quarterbacks. It was really just coordinating an offense and calling a game. And man, he did not have a problem there. He just transitioned beautifully. And you look at the numbers that Princeton put up in our last 2 years, the way he called games, the way he prepared his game plans, everything was it was tight from the beginning. And this year especially, produced the highest scoring offense in the history of our league.
And here's one of the really impressive aspects of it. The last 2 years where he was the offensive coordinator, he had two different quarterbacks. Chad Canoff, who appears, and stat-wise looks like a guy that can really wing it, probably not somebody you're going to enlist to run the triple option. Then he comes back the next year with John Lovett this last season where Princeton went 10-0 and put up 66 twice, and I think the closest game they had was a battle with Dartmouth, 14-9, and like I said, swept through the season and won the Ivy League. And you look at it, Lovett actually ran for close to 1,000, threw for 1,800, and the offense was almost a 50-50 balanced proposition. So Sean Gleeson, hey, just give him the talent, and he'll figure out exactly what to do with it. That's what it looks like.
You're 100% correct. And when he had, the year that Chad had been a 2-year start. He started in the 2015-2016 seasons, and really is one of the best pure throwers I think that's ever played in our league. He was a minicamp invite for the Arizona Cardinals, made the team, made the practice squad. So he's an NFL quarterback. He has that arm, and what he did in 2017, where we really had an injury-ravaged defense, and the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season had no choice but to try to outscore teams. You look at our last game, we played a 54-44 game, and so Chad was somebody who broke the Ivy League record for passing yards in a game, had a 73% completion percentage, and that was how our offense was best suited to work. This year with John Lovett, I think he improved remarkably as a thrower, but his strength is the RPO. It's reading the defense. It's making the quick pass, and he's just, he looks like a linebacker, especially in this league. I think he's somebody that's going to get drafted. So he tailored the offense around John Lovett, and it did, like I mentioned, it produced the highest scoring offense in the history of the league. And if you look at the stats, we ran about maybe 75 plays a game, and 5 to 6 of the games were really kind of over by the start of the fourth quarter, where we could kind of slow it down and start to huddle. For years, I never saw huddles from our offense, and but it got to the point a few times where we could pull back a little bit because we had 40 to 50 point leads. He tailors the offense around the strengths of the team, and not necessarily just the quarterback. We have a potential NFL receiver. We have a tight end. We've a developed offensive line. He looks at the offense. He looks at the upcoming defense. Where are the strength? Where can you attack? And he tailors a game plan. But certainly those two quarterbacks, he didn't force them into a system. He saw their strengths and he built their system around those two. And the results speak for themselves.
Again, a guy that's produced a couple of really good quarterbacks, and just looking at the video, that Princeton did on getting to know Sean Gleeson, and all the comments that were in there from Coach Saris, and also from John Lovett, the relationship he builds with his quarterbacks, which you want to see with an offensive coordinator, become really strong, not just on a business or a work relationship, but that it crosses into a really tight friendship.
Yeah, I think if you can find the Bushnell Cup speech that John Lovett gave this year, so we've had basically quarterbacks. Our quarterbacks have won the Bushnell Cup 3 straight years. John Lovett won it kind of as a running back / quarterback in 2016. Chad won it in 2017, and then John won it again this year. And if you see his speech at the very end, he specifically mentions Sean Gleeson and talks about the thrill it was to play for him, and is, basically gives a recruiting pitch for Princeton, which is, young guys, this is who you want to play for. This is the coach you want. And it's not just, obviously, his ability to coach, his ability to, improve John's passing and build an offense around these strengths and score a lot of points and win a lot of games. That all matters. But the friendship, the connection, the relationship that you have that really is important in football, the trust that you have to have between a coordinator and a quarterback, it was so obvious, it was so apparent, and those two they were really close. There was a moment after one game where John had an injury and wasn't sure kind of what was going to happen, and you could see the two of them just sitting together, talking and dealing with things, and you could just sense the bond and how strong it was. And fortunately the injury was very quick. It was 1 week, and we another thing we've seen is backup quarterbacks for Princeton have been able to come in and just kind of get right into the flow of the offense. We did that against Brown, and Lovett was able to come back the next week. But yeah, the relationship that he has developed with his players is very clear. It's very strong, and that's obviously that's the hardest part of losing somebody like Sean is he's very close with these guys, and it's it's tough, but it's a great opportunity, and I have no doubt that he will develop the same connections with the guys in the Oklahoma State locker room.
And the last thing, and it goes back to what you were just saying about those relationships. He has the notoriety of having recruited a four-star quarterback out of California in Brevin White that everybody shook their heads on because Princeton beat Alabama pretty much straight up to get Brevin White's signature, and that's unheard of.
Yeah, and you know what? I can't speak to all the reasons that go into a decision like that, but our offense and Sean Gleeson were big parts of it. And, what he has done with quarterbacks, with Chad, with John, and with what I believe are going to be good quarterbacks in our system moving forward, including Brevin, the way that they have grown, what they've been able to show, the potential to go from Saturdays to Sundays. That doesn't happen a ton in the Ivy League, and Chad Kanoff did it last year, and I believe John Lovett's going to do it in the draft this year. It shows how he can develop the relationships he can create in recruiting, how he can develop quarterbacks, and what they can do on Saturdays. I think there's a lot of reasons. Obviously, I think that you would want to come to Princeton, and obviously that one got a lot of attention, both because of the position and the level of the recruit, and when you throw Alabama in it as well, it made headlines. But yeah, certainly I think this offense, I think what Sean has done, and I think the relationships that he had, that I really felt like you could see strongly, when John was talking about Sean after he won the Bushnell Cup. I think those did factor into it, and I think for his sake and for yours, I hope that continues, because he's a guy that really, I think, will develop guys. He'll earn their trust. He'll build a good relationship, and he'll build a high-scoring offense.
Hey, Craig, we appreciate it again. Thanks for hopping on here, and I know Princeton's got obviously a great, long, storied, great athletic tradition. Oklahoma State's tapped into it here twice with the wrestling match, which was a good competitive match, and
it was a lot of fun.
And then also with the yeah, and then with hiring the offensive coordinator. Hope you guys, and I'm sure Coach Saris will find another good offensive coordinator, and good luck with the future there. But appreciate you coming on with us and telling us more about Sean Gleeson.
My pleasure, Robert. Thanks for having me on, and congrats on bringing in Sean Gleeson. I think he's somebody you're really going to enjoy.
We'll give all the credit to Mike Gundy. That's his call, believe me, and nobody knew about it until it popped yesterday afternoon. He kind of does those hiring things fairly stealth. But hey, thanks again. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
All right, Craig Sachson from the Princeton Athletic Department. We're going to talk to Cody Crushell, who does the game's play-by-play for the Princeton Tigers on the Princeton IMG network. He's coming up later. But here after this break, we are going to talk to a Twitter X's and O's expert from the St. David's School in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I know you're shaking your head saying, Robert, what are you doing here? How does this guy know Sean Gleeson? Well, I don't know that he does personally, but he has studied the Princeton offense, has a nice lesson on it on Twitter. We'll tell you how you can follow him, and we'll talk to him some Princeton X and O's when we come back.
It's the best Orange Nation info you're going to find, Cowboy fans. This is the Robert Allen and Friends Show, presented by the Cimarron and Iowa Casinos. Check out the Cimarron Casino in Perkins and the Iowa Casino 6 miles west of Chandler for your chance to hit it big.